This will be just like a stream, except not playing a game, going through a design of a game. All right. So, what I see as problems with the current StarCraft UI, and then we'll get into. I have some screenshots of my new one. So, all right. First thing, you have the map in the lower left corner. It's pretty small. It's not that informative. And okay, your map, right? This is a macro heavy element, lower left hand corner, game clock, all that. On the other corner, in the upper right, way up here, is all your resources, all of your, again, macro level information. So they're the opposite corners. So you have to, it's just kind of basic. You have to move your eyes a lot. It's really easy to miss things. So if you're looking at the map regularly, which you should to be aware in the mini map, you're going to miss if you're supply blocked. If you're looking at your supply block, right, you're going to miss what's on the map. All of this, see, so I don't have a unit selected, right? All at the bottom, all wasted space, like all of this. So, okay, real quick, we're going to switch to mine with no selection. Okay, so a couple of things you'll notice. One, the map is quite a bit bigger. It's the lower right-hand side. I imagine the user could customize it if they want it the right or the left, but for now it's going to be the right-hand side. Your macro information, right there, right next to it, right where you need it. Again, here we see the two supplies. So that's right, I had 90, I don't know, 190, but you max out your workers, right? So I have 20 workers. So this also helps because I know how many workers I have. I instantly have a snapshot of how good my econ is at the time that it should be, right? And yeah, I don't have to worry about that supply. Now my military, 1 out of 23, so I probably have 1 Marine or something. And I still need to build the supply depots to manage that for sure. Now what you notice is I get tons of free space back. So it's conveying more information, but more space back. The menu, I put up here because it's really not pertinent in the game. So it can kind of be in the upper hand corner. And it's the only thing up, as you notice. And if you want, you can actually click, you can make the UI more minimal, right? And probably pro players would do this. But I'll show you what's going to go here in a second. Let's go back to the old UI. So if we click on a command center, right, the old UI is going to show us what's training, the health, picture, and it's going to give us commands for this unit. Click on a unit or a group of units, right, commands on the right. But we've actually lost a lot of information as opposed to if we click on a single one, you see a lot more, right? Like with the command center. We know that it's light, biological, all these things that, sure, pro players know by heart, but honestly, a lot of novices, they don't even know this is a thing. Because most time you have a group of units, and most time this is all you see. So we're going to address that. And again, so all these commands, they're off to the right. But here's the thing, in the real world, you might think this is a little thing, but this is about bridging, the brain and connecting the UI to the user and how they use it. So typically these commands are all going to be used by the user's left hand. They're on the left side of the keyboard. So why is it on the game they're on the right side? Doesn't really make sense. The buttons are also small, they're all jammed together because that's what StarCraft 1 looked like. But right, building a building is very different than moving or attacking. And they get different rows, so that's pretty good. But even repair, I guess it's sort of like a building. But it's just kind of all jammed in there. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the new one, and we're going to kind of go through each of these things. Okay, so now we're on the new one. So I still have a command center selected, still have the map here, but oh look, now in the lower left, I see all the training information. It's still there, it's still really useful. So, okay, but then you'll notice this command bar is very different. You notice there's no button to train the SCV. It's not by accident. Um, so, and you also notice this funky little thing down here with this green dot. The green dot, I didn't want to build a whole element, but it's like highlighting the selection, right? And there are these three tabs, and if you select it, it's going to change what goes on in here. We'll get to that in a second. But also, a couple of things. The buttons are bigger, you notice. They're in the middle of the screen, which is at least closer to the left hand of the screen. And the keyboard, I guess, goes under the middle. And the keyboard goes in the middle underneath the screen. The buttons are bigger. And just so you know, right, this shouldn't look too novel to you because this is basically the Heroes of the Storm UI. That was my inspiration for it because it makes a lot more sense. Okay, so then a little thing too, the escape is in the upper left because on the keyboard the escape is in the upper left. And then here, so this is important, you have 4 rows of keys. Not all of them are used right now, but we'll go to a screen. I'll show you what it looks like when they are. Okay, and then just so you know, so kind of at a high level, the other thought process that's going on here is on the left is all unit specific stuff. The left is like what you are selected on right now. So if I click on a SCV, the left is going to change and the middle might change. We'll get into that. It may not. And then certainly the right will stay the same because the right is global. So if we go back, again, so yeah, instead of before things were all over the place, now the left is specific to what I'm selecting. The middle and kind of this underneath part may or may not change. And then the right is all your global mechanics. The clock, the map, and all that, and the menu. That's why it's on the right. Now, so there's kind of a logical flow, right, from small to middle to great. And this could be flipped. The user can maybe flip these two. Cool. So now I'm going to just show you what is happening here with this menu. This is the bread and butter. I think this is what makes the game better. This is what makes it work with the other macro changes, is this command bar here. So what these are is globally accessible commands. Well, depending. So the bottom, which I have the caps, meaning if you press the caps key, that's the hotkey to the bottom. That is the commands for the specific thing that you are selected on. So that means if I'm in the command mode and I select on nothing, it will be blank. But if I select it again, it will have stuff. Now we go up to the one above it. This is the train mode. So because we're selected on an SCV, it's going to train an SCV. If we weren't selected on anything though, it would actually have the global commands for like your barracks and things. And I'll show you what that looks like later. Now, and you'll notice that this SCV, it is a little more hidden than it used to be. But it's not as important as it once was because it's typically on auto build. Now you can still go here and you could turn on you could right click and turn off auto build if you want. You can still manually do it. And this hotkey, right, is tab. So you can always just tab D, right? You hold tab, you press D, and you're going to build an SCV. So it's still quickly accessible. If we go up to the tilde key and click on that, we get what I call as a global build menu. So here, this is my point earlier. This is the full rows of keys. So what you're going to see is this menu. We're always on QWER and ASDF. That's all we need. 4 per row, 2 rows. And then certainly you could still use, number keys, 1 through 4, all the way, 7, 9, how fast your fingers can go for control groups and things like that. But what's cool about this button, this tilde key, it's a global build. So right now I'm selected on the command center, right? And I can see that. But because I'm in the build mode, if I were to build one of these buildings, it's actually going to pull the nearest SCV, and it'll favor idle ones, but not necessarily. It's going to pull the closest one, and it's going to build that thing. So with this way, you can just quickly build stuff and go back to what you're doing. You don't have to find the SCV, click it. And I know, you could control group these things. I know that I could just select a whole bunch of SCVs and shift build or build. I realize that. And it's fast and it's good and it's better than it was in StarCraft 1, but it could still be better. Because this way, whether I'm selected on them or not, or wherever I'm on the map, I know I could just build something and I know the most optimum, efficient, the closest SCV will come and build it. So that's that. And then just the shift modifier, right, will go to advanced buildings. So it's really easy, right? You're doing your thing, tilde, shift W, and you're building a ghost facility. Or, E or R, you're building a supply depot. And you know that the most efficient guy is going to come over and build it. And, all these are still customizable. If you want to change hotkeys, go for it. But again, and I think this helps a novice player understand how the hotkeys work and how helpful they can be too. So okay, and then right, if you have a bunch of guys selected and you build, well then it's gonna select from that pool of things, right? So if I build this barracks, so I have these things selected, it's not a global build. It's gonna pick one of those guys, like how it currently works. And if you click on the individual, again, it's just if I queue up commands, it's only he's going to do it sequentially. So all that works how the game currently does. Cool. So that's kind of the econ. You could see how the combination of auto building SCV, globally building things, and refineries, right? So when it's auto building the SCVs, it will favor to saturate a refinery first, if you have one, over the minerals. There'll also be a button. Instead of, you have to select two and move them on the refinery and hope you don't get the one with the mineral because then you lose the mineral. There's just a button on the command center or the refinery, and again, it could be, hotkey. You push the button, it saturates, like, let's say there's only one guy in the factory, you push the button and they get saturated immediately rather than waiting for the next one to be built from the command center. And again, this you could set to autocast. So then as soon as you build a refinery, it'll get saturated and it's just automatic. Now, if you don't want it, right, if you're doing a crazy build and you want just the mineral, you still have that control. So see that's how this works with the ability to autocast or not. But it makes it less things to think about. So you can focus on more fun things than am I mining gas, right? So now when you build an expansion and you move over and you build refineries and you pull a bunch of SCVs over, that's it. Like it's fire and forget. It's play and go or whatever. They will just distribute, if you have it set up, they'll auto distribute the gas. You still have to build the refinery. It's not automatic, right? You still have to decide when and where you want to build the refinery or both of them. But once they're built, typically, right, you want them saturated. So that's what's going on with all this. That I think these are small things, but they're huge things because they take up a lot of the player's focus and time. And they're not fun ways to take up your time. So I really think, making these changes will open up the game quite a bit. So let's look at another interesting example. Let's see. So yeah, now we're going to look at a combat example, and I think we'll even show more. Real quick, right, when I have the multiple selection, notice this is the same. I still see all the information here as in the old one I did not, and it's telling me exactly, I have 12 SCVs. If we go to the old one, how many SCVs do I have? I don't know. Do you know? It's 8, right? I get it. 8 and 4 is 12. Why is it 8? Why isn't it 10? I mean, then at least, right? It's so arbitrary. It's because that's how StarCraft used to be, because we used to play on 4x3 monitors that were really small. But again, this whole UI takes up a lot of space for a 16 by 9 screen. And again, this isn't very informative. So now you have bigger buttons, takes up less space, and tells you more information. Okay, let's go to a combat example. So, all right, now we're in the middle of combat. Same thing. We have an army selected. We have this group selected, right? And we're roasting these Zerglings currently. So a couple of things that I think are pretty cool that's going on. One, notice I know what the Marine is. I still know his stats, and I know I have 10 of them really quickly. I also know really quickly that I have one Marauder in the group, right? I have one Widow Mine and 2 Hellions. So I think very quickly I see the composition of my army, in a much more clear manner. I also see which unit is kind of the highlighted unit, the front one, just like in the current game, because I have his portrait and he's bigger and all of that. But what's cool is the way that you would shift through the units in your composition. I think I have a much more elegant solution, if I might be so bold. And that is, if you notice on this vertical stack, and right, the more unit types you have, it would stack up further along the top. And so what this allows you to do is, sure, you could press the tab key, right, and it'll cycle through. So if I were to press the tab, what would happen is the Marauder would shift down, the Marine would go to the top, and it would cycle through it, just like it currently does. The difference is now I know which way the cycle's going. Like I can look at the screen, and how many times, I don't know, you press, you're wanting to stim, and you want to drop your tanks, and you want to whatever, or have your ghost do its EMP, so you're jamming through the tab key to find the right thing, and you skip it, you're like, oh, and then you have to go around, you go all the way around, and then maybe miss it again. Or you finally get it, but you can't, unless you set the hotkey like Shift Tab or, to go backwards, it's a pain because there's no context. So I don't have the mock-up, but what would happen here is this vertical stack, it would actually like shift up and down, and the highlighted one would become big as you press tab. So you have a sense of space and you know where you are. In addition, because it's vertical like that, you don't need the tab button actually. You can map this to the scroll wheel on the mouse, right? So you just scroll up, scroll down, up, down, and it scrolls. It each notch moves the thing, and then you have the abilities that you want. And even when they're small, these abilities, there's no hotkey map to these right now, but it's showing me that they have abilities. So I know, right, if a ghost were on here, you'd have a bunch of abilities. So I know to select him quickly, and it becomes easier to manage your army. Now, okay, that was this left side. On the right side, the middle, let's talk about that. So again, we're on the bottom, which means we're in the command tab, which means it's commands for the specific units we're selecting. It's not a global thing. But there's some cool things going on. So the first is, okay, your basic commands are always ASDF. Why F? So, right, A, so you want A, attack move, right? A move. It uses your pinky. It uses your pinky all the time. Why use the pinky? The pinky is like the weakest finger, and if you're playing a lot, it's just annoying. So when it's the F key, it's the index finger. That's the one you click on. So I don't know. Obviously, it's customizable. Maybe you hate it. You want to change it. Whatever. I think it's really helpful because you're using an attack move all the time. So make it the index key. So that's why that's F. Okay. So then you still have your basic patrol, stop, cancel, or hold ground. Sorry. Like you don't want to do, but no, I dropped the move key, right? There's the M or whatever hotkey you want to, this dedicated button move. Again, that dates back literally from like Warcraft 1 because you couldn't just click the mouse and you had to click a button and then move. But, right, you don't need that. It's just you click the mouse. We don't need that button. We don't need that hotkey because it's just right click. So that's gone. Okay, so the above row, which again would be QWER, but in my unit composition, the above row is pulling all the available unit abilities that you have currently selected. So, like in this case, notice I don't even need tab. I don't even need the mouse wheel. I don't need to cycle because my units don't have a lot of ability, and they're all right there. And it's it's placed them right. So I could turn my Hellions into Hellbats. If it were researched, I could deploy my Widowmine, and it's easy. You can manage the army, you can micro the army better this way. And of course, the stim pack would affect the Marines and the Marauder. Now, there's some limitations here. You're probably already thinking, well, maybe, right? If you have a large army composition, you have a lot of abilities, they're not all going to fit. So you could, I mean, I have room here, right, on the left. You could have a fifth row. You could have more keys. Maybe you go over to T and G and V. That you'd have to play test it, right? I'd have to, if I had a team at Blizzard, and we'd figure out the best way to do it. But for now, it's just kind of what it is. Now the other issue, though, right? How do you? Let's say you are controlling just a Widowmine, so you have to make sure that deploy Widowmine is always E, right? You don't want it to suddenly be R, W, but then if you have a large composition, or you have battle cruiser and it suddenly wants to do Yamato cannon, well, which one should it go to? So again, those are some corners you'd have to figure out. Do you let, like, is stim pack always R no matter what? Or if you have a weird composition, does it shift, and how does that work? And then how does it work with this scroll wheel on the left? But yeah, if anyone wants to mod and make this, that'd be cool, because then I think through playing it, we'd figure out those more detailed questions. But hopefully, I guess let me know. But I think you see, I mean, I feel like I can manage, my army much better. Now, the other thing is, this is for Terran. I'm a Terran player. I don't know the game well enough with Zerg or Protoss to say. Honestly, their UI might need to be different. I don't know. You guys have to know. But I think that's the way, I think each race should have a custom UI. You kind of saw that with the Protoss. They have that W for the global warp gate button. And so we're extending that idea, right? So anyway, I think a lot of this would carry over to all the races, but some nuances might have to be specific. Speaking of global warp gates, I took that idea and put it on steroids. So remember the train button that it didn't do anything in the command center. It should. But so let's click that now. And so if we click the train, notice a couple of things. One, we're still selected on our army. So I can still right click and move them around and manage things. But my hotkeys are now different. I can't attack move. I can't, but I'm building stuff. So you could do attack move, press tab. Now if I go on the ASDF and I jam in some of those keys, I'm building stuff back home. A couple of cool things that are going on here. The first, these are all control groups, just like they normally are, right? 1, 2, all the way up to 7. The difference is these are made global. Well, they're made automatically is what I mean, because control groups are global, right? They're made automatically. So whenever I build a barracks, right, it will be added to 1. I don't have to say shift 1 or shift whatever. Just whenever I build a barracks, I know it's going to be on there. And so I can jam in these keys. I can build my guys. And see, I know, okay, just like the game currently is, I know I have 3 barracks. If I go to 1, I can go in the factory. Same idea, right? The units, they're arranged. ASDF, ER, really easy. I didn't set up the starport, but same idea. And even so for research, right? Now I can research quickly. So you can be in the middle of a fight, right? I mean, you're in a fight, tab 4, and I'm researching stuff, and then caps lock, and I'm back to killing stuff. And I didn't have to create any of those control groups. So this is nice because it lets me focus on, again, more interesting parts of the game. And all these could be, so the other cool thing, this stuff, you can customize it, and you can customize it before a match starts. So it's like all this stuff you don't have to do at the start of every game, and why can't it just be fixed? And I don't want to, I forgot to add this factory to the group. Why isn't it doing anything? Well, now that never happens, and yeah, the player could customize this however they like. Maybe they hate 1 through 7. I don't know. They could redo it and all the keys. But you have this option. Or maybe I don't know, you hate the idea of the global production anyway, and because you want, you know, 2 barracks here to be on one control group, but your proxy barracks, you know, the enemy to be a different control group, and all that's really fine too. Well, that's fine. You can still do that, and you'll still be the better player. But what this does is it helps a more novice player, you know, just not get crushed, right? You're still gonna win. You'll still do your, you know, proxy build and do it better, but it gives an ability to at least like have some kind of defense because they have quicker access to their production, right? Because I mean, I know they're friends of mine. You know, they don't play the game a lot. They play it casually. They didn't even know you can add buildings to control groups, right? Like it's not even a thought process to them. And yeah, you could be like, oh well, they should, you know, read the thing and play more and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but it's not fun. Like any game where you have to like read a Wikipedia article on the meta of the game just to like be functional, like that's a problem. Like it's not fun. Anyway, I digress. So then finally, right, we're still in the army. If I go tab, build mode, right? And notice what's happening. I'm not selecting SCVs. I'm still selecting the army. But what's cool is I have access to the building. So you could be in a fight and you could drop towers super fast. You know, D, you know, or Shift D and just bam, bam, bam. I guess the Shift would have to be a different modifier, right, for the advanced buildings. But anyway, you could just drop these towers and you know the nearest SCV is going to go and build them. And it's not going to mess up your econ otherwise. And once they're done building it, they'll go back and do, like, that has to be automatic too. Instead of having to shift, you know, go back to get minerals. Just like if the guy, I'm sure the programmer, you set a variable that tracks what the probe, the worker SCV was doing before. When he goes to build the thing, you just have him, you know, do the task that, you know, so when he builds his tower, if he's mining gas, he goes back to mining gas. If he's mining minerals, he goes back to that. And right, typically you don't want to pull the guys mining gas, so right, it will favor mineral gatherers. So that's that. You have this global build mode. You have a global train/research mode. And then you have your specific unit selection with an advanced way to, you know, get specific abilities. And all that is coupled with kind of a, you know, a cleaner UI. You see more of the map and better macro visibilities. So that's pretty much it. And certainly, obviously, this would be cleaned up too, right? You can see I just did a quick Photoshop to hobble together existing StarCraft parts. Obviously, you'd want to you'd want to clean up the corners and maybe even get rid of this kind of Terran thing and go to more of a Heroes of the Storm style. But yeah, I really like these floating cards, you know, above the UI. And a designer, I'm sure, can make this much prettier. I might even try it if I have more time. I just wanted to kind of show the concept, the functionality of it. So, yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I know it was kind of long, but that's pretty much the gist. So check out, you know, I wrote an article about it, or a blog post, whatever. I filmed this video and made this prototype. So you can walk through, I have the link, and click around the prototype yourself. If there are any modders out there that want to make a mod, that'd be awesome. I would, I don't have time right now. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts. If this, you know, this combination of fixing the rule of StarCraft, changing the rule of StarCraft to fix the problem of StarCraft. So changing that rule to be more about, you know, battles and map control and counters, and, you know, effectively units rather than just being faster than the other guy. So if any of that resonates, you know, give me a like, drop me a comment, whatever. If you have other ideas, you think it sucks, whatever, drop comments too. I don't know, I really care about StarCraft, so if ever this thing goes anywhere, and Blizzard looks at it like, I think this is a fun game. I think it's a great game, and I really care about it. But it is frustrating because it could be so much better. You know, in a lot of ways, it's not that good, and it just could be so much better and a lot more fun. Um, so these are the ideas. Um, you know, I didn't. You know, another issue of the game is team battles are not fun, and that's like a whole nother issue. I am curious if this would solve some of those things. I don't know if it would. You know, because all these things a combination, right? People have more money, they have faster money, they have less things to worry about. It means people are going to get more expands quicker. They're going to get way bigger armies, both faster in the late game. So battles are going to be more intense and more often and all over the place. Um, and so with team games, right, that's even more. So interesting. But you know, your buildings are stronger. So even though more units are coming at the buildings, those buildings will take more punishment. So you know, building a bunker at a middle of the map all of a sudden makes sense, right? Where right, the way the game currently is, no static defense, it hardly makes any sense. But now, if you hold like, you know, a tactical bridge or a special, you know, a high mineral yield, and you drop some defenses first, and you can build them, well, it's worth it. And so people will be encouraged to scout more and play on the map more, and that will be the skill differentiator, right? Those will be what separates the pros from the novices and all the different levels. And I think the game will be, you know, a lot more fun to watch too. So thanks, and see you online.